Hello, everyone. So here is Moonlight Soul and Adrian Gibson from Just Kidding Astrology back in Europe for me. And we're going to be talking about the full moon in Aries. Hello, Adrian.
Hi, Mila. Good to be here.
Well, I wish I was where you are, but I am somewhere different now.
Yeah, well, it was wonderful having you here.
Thank you for having me. It was wonderful being there. It's a very different energy being somewhere else.
Yeah, we live in a little bubble.
Yeah, your Piscean world, as you called
My
it.
Piscean world, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna come fast down to earth with this full moon in Aries that we're going to be talking about.
Yep. Yep. The beginning of the new self.
That's it. Yeah, yeah. I really feel. I know that we mentioned it that this eclipse season was like the turning point from 2024 to going forward, 2025 and forward. Like I really feel that the eclipses ushered this energy of the shift, and now we are moving into the energy of the new.
Yep. Absolutely. Yes. Yep. Getting rid of the last little bit of baggage and then on we go.
Yeah, especially with the Aries, because we know that the new moon in Aries was an eclipse, and the next new moon in Aries will be the eclipse. This one is not an eclipse, but it feels just as potent. So, and it's a
Yeah.
super
I
moon,
mean,
I believe. The impact of
yeah, I
this
think I heard
lunation,
that.
yeah, it's gonna be massive.
Yeah, well, we're still feeling the big push from the eclipse, so that's fueling this shift that's happening. So,
Absolutely. Shall we dive in?
yeah, let me pull it up. There we go.
Here
The
we are.
17th at 7:27 for the East Coast of the US.
That's right. For me, 6 hours more. So 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah. So there's some several things that stand out. I think the biggest one that everybody can see is that giant square
Hmm.
between the sun and the moon and Pluto and Mars. And it's interesting because all of these squares, they're a little bit different. We have closing phase between Mars and the sun. We have a new phase between the moon and Mars. We have a new phase between Pluto and the moon, and a new phase between Pluto and the sun. So
Hmm.
there's only one closing phase there, right?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm never sure with the moon because, moon to Mars, like if you're looking at it as a moon
Oh,
itself or a moon and sun. So I'm always like a little bit not fully sure because
yeah, it's closing between the moon and Mars.
yeah. So in
So
that
there's
case
two
it would be
closing phases and two opening phases.
yeah. Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Which makes sense because there are things that we need to culminate on and things that we need to go forward with.
Yes, absolutely.
And also the fact that Mars and Moon have a mutual reception as well, because Mars being in Cancer and Moon being in a sign of Aries, there is a mutual reception between the two.
Yep, a repeated theme. So that's the energy, is that we are beginning a new cycle of self and we are acting on ourselves. We're acting from this inner place. Um, and then and so the closing phase between Moon and Mars is this. I mean, I know that we don't really use the houses, but to me, if I were to use the houses, like if this were somebody's chart, I would say that this this closing phase is moving from our relationships out to the world, where we're bringing our new selves out to the world, which I think is really interesting. And the opposition between Mars and Pluto is a very interesting alignment. And as you were saying in our conversation earlier, that it's going to be there for quite a while.
Yeah, yeah, we were
Um,
checking, and it's going to be ongoing until May, with exception of about a month when Mars will just go back too far into Cancer, and Pluto will already be in Aquarius, so they will not be quite in an orb of the opposition. But apart from that, it's more or less 6 months opposition, which it's interesting because 6 months is like the half of the chart, so it's like the Libra Aries.
yes, yes. But Pluto has moved in. I think it was just this past Saturday, Pluto went direct.
Exactly, yeah, on the 11th, yes.
So while it was moving retrograde, we were going back over some energy where, and many of us probably saw places where we were putting things outside of ourselves. And this forward direction is where we're transmuting that from external control to the internal control, where we really have to mind our own sense of emotions, our own sense of responsibility, being responsible for our own emotions and not projecting it outward.
Hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, we're moving that forward because that's the energy that we'll be working with when Pluto moves into Aquarius.
And I also feel, especially like just my attention got drawn to this Neptune and North Node closing, because they are going to have a conjunction in February, right after Jupiter stations direct. And Jupiter, of course, at the moment is retrograde as we recording this, and it's trining the Sun and sextiling the Moon. The part of the story, that we are weaving now, going into this new direction of self-discovery and self-autonomy and self-governance, is also the compassion for those who are not there yet. Because with this Neptune in Pisces, I really feel this is such an important component, because it is the Scorpio decan, isn't it, 27 degrees, and it is part of our transformation, because before, with this division we've been experiencing for thousands of years, until this point it was based on us seeing ourselves separate. So this
Yes,
this is where we have this contrast, this like conflict, in a sense, when we say it verbally, where we want to move to unity consciousness, but not to be put in a one bunch like everybody's the same. So this is where is this oxymoron, where we are individuating and stepping into our unique expression, and through that we becoming part of oneness again. Whereas now we
yes,
were being put in a one cluster and said everybody has to be the same, but we lost our individual expression. So I really
yes,
feel that with this Neptune that is conjuncting North Node already within a degree, and like still retrograde at this stage, it is about, the big aspect of this is the healing component, and this understanding that everybody has a role to play, everything has a meaning, and there is a lot of compassion and forgiveness that needs to take place, individual and collectively, for this to be integrated, this energy, so we can move forward into this new chapter of humanity, where we don't have to keep dragging this past stuff with us, because we cannot understand, integrate, and forgive.
yes. And it's interesting. I like that. When you were talking about that, I was seeing like the way that the earth is just by itself. Like everything has its unique expression. Everything, even, looking out into the woods, all the trees have their unique
Mm,
expression, yet they are all part of a one whole.
mm, mm.
And I think that's what we're getting ready to reflect, instead of, like you're saying, all being the same, all wearing the same clothes and, you know. So,
Uniformed.
yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. What do you think about the opposition with the South Node? Because
It's the balancing. That's literally, I think, what it is. Because with the South Node Libra, what we are moving away or what we are evolving, we'll be building up on, because we cannot forget what was, and what was always will be, because it's already recording in the Akash. So it's not that we cannot delete the history, but we can change the meaning of it. So this is what I feel
Yes.
is the balancing of the meaning of that which was, and it's to do with this Neptune closing to North Node, and the conjunction will take place on 28 degrees of Pisces at the beginning of February. So in Aquarius season, so that will be going beyond is through forgiving, and because we understand the meaning, we see things from the higher perspective, but not invalidating what it meant for us in a physical form, what happened. So with the opposition, it is all about this balancing, the balancing and the integration of not damning what was, but trying to learn from it,
Trying to
because
learn from it.
everything that happened, everything that took place until this point held the meaning, otherwise it wouldn't happen. Universe doesn't make
Yes.
mistakes, universe doesn't waste energy. Just like you mentioned with the nature, when if we observe nature, we know nothing is ever wasted. Nature doesn't waste nothing, literally nothing
Right.
ever gets wasted in nature. When we just observe nature without interference, everything gets used, even like whatever we might perceive as garbage, nature has a use for it, like when
Yes.
it's nature made. And Venus being on 29 degrees of Scorpio, which is Scorpio Pisces Cancer decan. So this is again connected to us letting go of the previous definitions, to do also with this Cancer, Mars in
Yes.
Cancer, mutual reception with the moon, illumination of all these versions of ourselves, all the identities, everything that ever took place on this planet. It all held a meaning. We just need to
Yes.
find it. We need to understand it, but nothing is happening without meaning.
Yes. And then that Venus at 29 degrees Scorpio is also, the change of meaning and the change of what value we found in the previous life. And it's interesting that it is opposing Uranus, which is
Mm.
breaking apart all of our old values. And so there's this integration of this, which means that we're losing meaning in what was, and we will begin to look at life through the higher perspective, like you were saying before. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, and it really is, because I mean, just for me, personal example, like coming from your place and how life is run very differently there, and how the life experiencing is different, because it's very much aligned to the nature and the rhythm of the earth, and just being completely connected to the natural laws rather than the human laws, but at the same time still coexisting in this world, in this earth bound world. But then going back into the matrix, into the real world, and seeing all the chaos and craziness, and
Right?
it's such a extreme contrast at the moment. So I feel with these oppositions, like just like you said, with the breaking of the previous values, like me arriving at your farm, for example, my values were different to me leaving the farm, so I feel, and this is just a personal example, I'm sure this is showing up in whichever way in people's individual life, that we are maybe discovering value in things that before we didn't maybe see or didn't recognize as valuable. But because of everything else that's going on, we are all reevaluating what is the meaning, what is the purpose, what are we doing, like how much time we have left, and how do we want to spend the time here, like these bigger questions, rather than just being on a hamster wheel of just keep going with the everyday routine. Like more and more things, because things are fracturing around us, things are being taken away, things are becoming unstable, with the weather condition, politics, everything. People starting to pay closer attention and reevaluate what actually holds a meaning, and that the whole value system is being completely restructured, reshapen, and that then changes who you are, and by you changes is changing what you experience in.
Yes. And whatever's happening on the inside will eventually show itself on the outside. And this is how we're going to change the world.
Yeah.
And it literally starts with us and the shift in our values and then the shift in our beliefs. Because now you can look at Jupiter, and Jupiter is still in Gemini, where it's expanding, you know, what it is that we see and what it is that we understand. And then its retrograde motion is to literally make a shift from believing what the outer world is believing to our own personal beliefs based on what it is that we see. And so I think that maybe the difference, the contrast between what's happening here and what's happening in the outer world is exactly that, because we're pretty secluded here, and the outer world, we're not watching the TV or doing any of that stuff. We really are like living in our own little bubble and working on, relational, when you're living with a bunch of people, you work on how your relationships are and the ability to keep things smooth and, fair between individuals. And so
And this is the
it's just
microcosm. Yeah,
it
good.
is a microcosm.
But
And I
it
feel like what we're working on here is that ability to live in a way that is more balanced, where our needs are important, other people's needs are important, and then there's a balance that
hmm.
has to be achieved between the two of them, which can be, a challenge.
Absolutely. And I really feel that what you have going on there, it's the microcosm of the change. Because as we were saying last time, we were recording about the Libra eclipse, as I was bringing through the thing about this, how we gone from the micro to macro, how people started with small tribal communities and then we become this capitalistic, monopolistic, conglomeration of stuff. And now we're going to start withdrawing that energy and people going to go back to drawing board, and it requires a lot of shadow work, know thyself. So we are observant, and it doesn't mean that people don't have no more work to do on themselves, because there is always more work to be done, but we are aware, like when we projecting, where we are judging, we are aware, and that's the difference. And I feel that in these smaller capsules, smaller groups, even when people belong to some kind of like groups, whatever, a reading club, doesn't matter, it creates much stronger interpersonal dynamics, because there is nowhere to run, like when you live in a big
Yeah.
city, that's why people feel so alone when they're surrounded by all these people, because everything is impersonal. People don't have to put in the work in to make things work, because, well, it's just a big city, there are a lot of people, who nobody cares, right? But we're going to go back to this micro, because this is the way we're going to change the world. We're not going to change it from the macro, because it's too big. It's too
It's
big,
too
it's out
big.
of hand. That's why when a lot of people look at the state of the world, they feel hopeless, and they feel
Yeah,
like it's too far gone. We cannot change it, because you cannot change the world. But you can change your little life, like who you interact with on daily basis and how you interact with these people with. And it takes a lot of work. It takes work on
yes,
yourself and on each individual, and then how we're going to create this new relationship between ourselves, because this is the work. The world is not going to just change because we wishing it to change. We have to change, and we change the world by changing ourselves. And this is, I feel, with this full moon, it's an illumination of where we at on this journey. And but it's, again, this Neptune keeps popping up for me. It's not about judgment, it's about seeing and accepting, because when we are not aware, and if we cannot accept where we are, we cannot change nothing. So I feel
exactly.
this is what's so important about it. And I mean, it's no coincidence that we didn't have the full moon in Aries as an eclipse. We had the Pisces eclipse, because there is a lot of healing of the past that needs to take place before we can embody this new energy. We know the energy is here, and we can even see how it's starting to maybe shape up, crystallize, or popping its head into our lives. But we cannot move from the past into the future until we accept the present moment.
Exactly. And then there's the forgiveness aspect and the compassion, because we've all been in a place where we've been unaware, and having compassion for those people that are still going through the process of becoming aware, they need compassion, you know?
Mm.
And I think that also, I think that also helps the it helps people to, if we have compassion for others, then others, it's like that's the projection outward is the compassion. And then people receive that, and that can go back in the other direction. They can have compassion for themselves. And I think that ultimately, because the nodes are getting ready to move into um, Virgo and Pisces, where we're going to have a whole year and a half of looking at that compassion and the opposing of judgment, because, the South Node is going to be moving into Virgo,
Mm.
and Virgo is the dynamic of judgment. It can be, doesn't have to
Criticism.
be. It's like this the word difference between judgment and discernment. It's We're going to be learning about what that difference is,
Absolutely.
because they are different. And it took me a long time to understand the difference between it. And how I see the differences: with judgment, you see things as good or bad. You're looking at, the hierarchy of things. So if if you see something, you're discerning what it is, and then you say that it's bad, then that would be a judgment. Instead of accepting, doing the other side, that that's the way that it is, but that is different from that. And that is the difference between the two.
And that's
So
all.
that's what we're heading into.
That's all the oppositions, about the neutralization. And it's like what you describe is literally this new new phase conjunction between Sun and Mercury being the rule of Jupiter retrograde in Gemini on an Aquarian decan, which is all about going beyond the labels, going beyond the past ways of identifying. And with the Mercury in Scorpio and Pluto 29 degrees Capricorn and Saturn in Pisces retrograde, this is all about whether we identify the situation in a way that makes us feel empowered or disempowered is a choice. It's a choice. And
It
this
is
is
a
what
choice.
this Jupiter being retrograde in Gemini, it's making us to go within and reevaluate the choices so we can break free from the sense of disempowerment, entrapment that is based on the way we identify the situation. Because we can look
Yeah.
at any situation, negative or positive, from the place that, yes, I can see that this is not ideal, but what is the meaning and purpose of the situation? What did I learn from it? Or we can just see it like, oh, this is all hopeless and it's a damnation and there is no point to it. Because, like I said, every time that there is anything happening, it wouldn't be happening if there was no meaning in it. Like, universe
Right.
doesn't make mistakes. It's just like it is all about how do we identify the situation is up to us.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
But
So let's
that's
see.
yeah, that takes a big level of responsibility, and that is
It
the
does.
maturation, the Capricorn.
Absolutely. This is where Pluto is. We're maturing our inner ability to guide our own reality. When we're learning this, it's because Capricorn is a, it's the sea goat. It's the emotions in the physical world, and it's our emotional protection system. It's like, we have to have some sort of inner structure that allows us to withstand what's happening on the outer world. And this is what we've been developing for the last 16 years. And
Hmm.
it's interesting to me that the world is in such chaos at this point. And it's the amount of resilience that we've built to be able to withstand that, because we're going to have to withstand it until it begins to dissolve, and it will dissolve. I mean, Neptune in Pisces is all the structures that have come before are
Hmm.
dissolving, and we're losing meaning in those old structures. not all at once. It's very sequential. But then ultimately we'll find new meaning coming from within. And that's where the North Node and this Neptune are coming together. Well, this will be, our future selves will be able to seek the meaning from within. And that leads us back to this Aries energy where we're going to be changing the world from the inside out, you know.
Yeah, and that's
So
also this conjunction between Chiron and the moon.
yeah, I was just going to say, yes, it is. And that's the healing. And
And
and they crossed each other already.
yeah,
So we're starting a new cycle.
yep. And Chiron was an eager participant in the eclipse. We remember that it was in exact conjunction with Sun and the Moon at the time of the solar eclipse, which was the birthing of this energy. The solar
Yes.
eclipse on April 8th in a new phase conjunction with the North Node. And yeah, now this Chiron is, Moon is in a new phase to the Chiron. So we are going ahead. We don't know where we're going, but we're going ahead. We know we're going ahead.
Yeah. And that's what it feels like. It's like you can feel that stuff is closing and shifting, but the direction that we're going is all wide open. So there's a feeling of, oh, what's coming next? Personally, for me, I'm excited by it. I don't know what's coming, but it's almost like the edges of the reality are starting to twinkle, like, oh, things are beginning to shift. What
Yeah.
is it going to do? What's going to and it's becoming, emotionally aligned with that, you know,
I think there's
being
the groundwater trine that is in there. You know, the Venus, Mars, and now Neptune. We had the Saturn last time. We had the lunation, Venus, Mars, and Saturn, and now it's Neptune.
yep,
The groundwater trine, which is all about this emotion and intuition. So we have the ruler of
yes,
the North Node, ruler of the South Node, and the ruler of everything. Neptune, the source.
yes. And it's interesting. We'll just be, this energy, I feel like this energy and a lot of it is about the relationships. It's about changing ourselves and changing the way we relate to the world outside of ourselves. Um, and becoming emotionally aligned with that.
Well, and it is a choice because the sun is on Gemini Deacon.
Yeah.
So it is a choice. Like, what do we want this to look like going forward? When we know that world is changing, that the life is changing, the way we relating is changing. What do you want that to look like for you? If you know that that which is right now, it is not going to be the same, and we have the choice to decide, okay, what do I want this to be like for me? You know, how do I want to experience this next chapter of humanity? And that again goes back to maturation and responsibility and discernment, right?
Yep.
So
Absolutely. And
uh,
that's what we're looking at.
that's what we're looking at exactly. I mean, you know, like obviously this chart is unique to your location, so not everybody's gonna have Libra rising with Sun in the first house. But I mean, the North Node in the sixth house is the Neptune is all this Virgo, you know.
Yeah.
And we know
Yeah.
that we have the Yod, right? So we probably have some Virgo going on there. The
Yeah.
Yod to the Sun we were talking about.
Yes. Yeah. So there's going to be some conflict and yeah, crises that pop up based on this our authenticity within relationships is
Mhm.
how I've been looking at this sun in Libra, learning to be authentic. Um, and it requires a shift in values. And it's interesting valued when your values begin to change and you express that in your relationships, not the relationship may shift and it may cause a little bit of chaos crisis popping up because people are used to you being in one way
Mhm,
and now
mhm.
you have shifted and it's causing crisis. And the same thing with this Neptune and the sun, this dissolving of everything in the past. If your relationships if you have relationships with people that are unaware of this shift, then it can cause a crisis. You know, people that are still judging and not just discerning, um, it may cause a upheaval in your relationships. And so, um, and what do we have? Oh, and then there's the boomerang point between Neptune and Uranus, which is this Moon and Chiron conjunction, which essentially says this is new. This is the new sense of self. And that's what's being integrated into our relationships. And how this new sense of self is working through authenticity. We've been working through authenticity through most of the summer when all the planets went through Leo, as we're beginning to gain our authentic self and shed these layers of masks that we've been developing, through the past. These layers are being shed. And then, Pluto's going to move into Aquarius. And the whole journey there, I see it as this is where we are becoming authentic because the opposition of Pluto will be in Leo. This is the direction of growth. We're learning to validate ourselves instead of having to be validated outside of ourselves, and learning to become authentic over the next 20 years of time.
Yeah, and it's interesting this Neptune Uranus, sextile that is like the base of the diode, because this is
Mhm.
a waning crescent, which is the Taurian flavor. So this is how we're creating the new foundation, because the old foundation is dissolving. The old foundation now is making us feel disempowered, and it's kind of
Yes.
just creates a very intangible, illusionary experience. With the Uranus fracturing the material stability and our needs shifting, just as we were speaking, and that is pointing to the Sun in Libra, which is on the Gemini decan, and also Venus as the ruler of both Uranus and Sun is on this 29 degrees of Scorpio, which is this Cancerian decan, because it's saying that the time and age we're living in, Pluto being the ruler and Scorpio on 29 degrees of Capricorn, moving back into Aquarius next month, right after the full moon in Taurus ruled by Venus. So this is all connected to that humanity is evolving. Humanity, the planet is ascending. We have to ascend with it, because otherwise we are not vibrational much, and then we cannot stay on this planet. The planet will survive without us. We will not survive without the planet, but the planet is ascending. The planet already shifted its frequency. So we are in this lapse of time when we have the opportunity to catch up. We can raise our
Yes.
frequency so we can be a much alignment to this fifth dimensional frequency this planet is going to be operating on and is already operating on going forward. So with this 29 degrees of Scorpio and Pluto being on 29 degrees of Capricorn, so there is that exact sextile, closing sextile between Venus and Pluto happening literally on the day of this full moon, and preparing for their conjunction, which, as I mentioned to you in our conversation, is happening right after Mars stations retrograde on December 6th. This is
Mm.
all about us breaking free from these reincarnations and continuous incarnations of feeling disempowered because of the illusion that we all agreed on that we're going to be experiencing on this planet, to have an experience that help us to grow and evolve to where we are now,
Yes.
but that's changing now, that's ending now, because now this is no longer a desire of the universe, source, God, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. Because just like we were saying, as an example case, many cases previously, you cannot stay a first grader forever. You have to
No.
move on. You have to keep learning. And this is where we at as a humanity. We have to move from that whichever grade we are at as a humanity. We need to keep moving forward. So all these planetary alignments are saying the same thing. They're saying you have to step into your self-governance and take responsibility for the life you wish to create and experience, because the contracts has changed. It's no longer gonna be, oh yeah, we all gonna be creating this reality through which we're going to suffer enough to break free from it and take our sovereignty back. I mean, we always been
Yeah,
sovereign, but consciously to reclaim our sovereignty as a human incarnate, right? That
right.
reality ending, that's technically ended, right? Pluto is on
Yes,
29 degrees, is ending. So now we're going to co-create a different experience on this planet, and it's going to be through this individual expression. So we no longer can say, okay, yeah, we all agree that we're going to create a reality of suffering to help us grow and go to the point where we are now, because we're already at this point. So we're going to create a reality where now we have to express ourselves differently as a soul incarnate and grow through different lessons and opportunities and challenges, but they are not these ones, because these ones
right.
we already mastered with 29 degrees Capricorn, Saturn, Neptune in Pisces. That's it. We're
Yeah,
not going that way anymore.
no,
So with this
we've,
full moon is literally saying that we are being illuminated with regards to, okay, what is stopping you, what is preventing you, what healing needs to take place in order for each and every single one of us to step into that awareness and that embody that self governance to be able to take the
yes,
lead on your own life.
yes. And I think that's what this first quarter square between Pluto and the moon is about. We're
Yeah.
we're we're leaving that old behind. We have to make different choices to step into our own sense of governance. And that's what we're doing. That's what we've been learning.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah,
And that's why we're going to have this opposition ongoing for 6 months.
yeah, because it's going to take time. It takes time to make these changes, to adjust ourselves. Um, it's going to take quite a bit of time, but in fact, I think that's where the nodes moving into Pisces and Virgo will work through is these internal adjustments that we have to make. Um, but Mars and Pluto are the beginning of this integration point.
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, this chart is like a explosion to me. It's like a
I
big
mean, it is.
explosion.
It is. It was so hard to work through all these alignments this time around, because there's a lot going on. But I think that what is key and what is at the base of this is this Pluto-Mars opposition. And like you said, we'll be there for 6 months. Um, Mars being the lower octave of Pluto, it's
Mhm.
how we action Pluto on the earthly realm. And
Exactly.
so, because, Pluto's the soul. So it's almost like the soul works above and outside of the earthly realm, but Mars comes in and does the actual work in the earthly on the earthly plane. And so, yeah, we're integrating this soul intention through being able to act from a place from within instead of the outer world, which is what we've been leaving
Mm.
behind, which is this north and south node. The south node is we've been guiding ourselves and aligning ourselves to the outer world, to all of our relationships and everything outside of us. And the integration point at this point is to ourselves, north node in Aries, which is also a repeated theme to that Mars in Cancer.
Well, it's interesting to me that people might remember that at the new moon solar eclipse in Aries, Mars was in Pisces. Now Mars is in Cancer on Pisces and Deacon, but both are water signs. So it's taking us back to the intuition. Mars as the ruler of the new moon in Aries was in a water sign. Mars as the ruler of this full moon in Aries is in a water sign. So it's again telling us the same thing. And also when we look at the chart, Mars is still within a degree trine to Saturn, and it is trine in Neptune. I mean, it's not exact yet, but it's going to actually trine Neptune 3 times. Mars is. I
Yes.
believe there might be even three. I believe it's also three times trine in Saturn as well. Either way, this is saying the same thing. This is the first trine, which is the Leo archetype. We are actualizing, creating a new sense of self where we are stepping into our authentic expression to fulfill our authentic, unique purpose, which we all came here with. But because
Yes.
of externalization of our power, because of our alignment to the external rather than to internal, we forgot. How many people, if
Yes.
asked what is your purpose, they can give you the answer. Most people will
Exactly.
ask someone outside of them. They will come to astrologer, tarot reader, psychic, and say, can you tell me what is my purpose? How
Yes.
does anybody else knows that the answer to that lies within you, the seed of what you, it's like every single thing in nature, and because you plant. You don't go buy a seed to plant a carrot and expect it to become anything other than carrot. You know exactly what you're
Ex-
getting, right?
exactly.
Every single one of us has the seed. The seed already knows what is it here to become. So other people can guide you and help you to understand something of your experience, but they can't tell you the answer to that. So this
Correct.
is literally what it is about, is this first trine to both Saturn as a physical structure of reality and Neptune as that all that is. And it's saying that Mars as the what how Pluto acts consciously through the human realm, the Mars is pointing to Cancer. The answer is within you.
Is
It's within
within.
your
And
intuition.
yes, and I've been saying for the last since Jupiter's been in Gemini that part of this expansion of our awareness is to include our intuition. And you mentioned intuition, and I'm like, yeah, intuition is what's being developed into us because we have aligned our consciousness with what's happening in the outer world, but that's where we're shifting. We have
Mm-hmm.
to come into the self, and the tool for in the self is our intuition. And it's it's not developed. It's
No.
being developed so that we can. And so as we intuit different things and it manifests for us, then we can begin to rely on that intuition. And I think that that's a really big part of shifting the value system. It's shifting our beliefs, it's shifting our values, it's shifting everything from the outside to the inside, where we can eventually discover what our true purpose is, which to me is what the sign of Aries is about.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what our true purpose is. It's time to discover what it is. And the way that we discover that is to try new things, step to let go of the fear, this anxiety of separation, and step into, oh, that seems really interesting. And you'll feel that through the inside, through our intuition. Oh, that looks interesting. Let me try that. It might not be what it is that you align with, but you won't know until you try it. So this is a very exploratory time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have to explore what it is that we haven't done and to determine what it is that lights our fire. What is it that lights our fire? And head toward that. And like you said, we'll only know that from within. Nobody can tell you that. That's the South Node in Libra. We're not doing that now. We're North noding in Aries.
Yeah, and it's this also the trine between Mars and Venus. That's also the Leo trine. And then Venus to Saturn and Neptune. Like, I mean, Venus to Saturn is a little bit too far now, but Venus to Neptune, this is the closing trine, Venus to Neptune, which is like the harvest. So,
Yes.
so that would be to Aries, that would be more like a Sagittarius kind of almost, it's like this, like the adventure. We're going to go and discover
Adventure.
the adventure. And from the spirit realm, this is a magical time, because yes, we have to go through this experience in a body and move through the density of human earth, of like, yeah, this will take time. But from the spirit form, like for them, like 100, 200, 500 years, that's nothing. I mean, we've been
Right.
around for a million years, so it's like, oh my god, we here soldiering around for whatever span of lifetime we have at the moment, to try to move this pattern, turn the ship, like go in a different direction as a humanity. But the spirit, the spirit realms, they are cheering, because like, hey, they doing it, they doing it, it's changing.
Right.
So it's like, it is like, in one sense, it is not an easy time to be alive, but it is a magical time to be alive, because we cannot change the course now. We are going ahead. Humanity as a all, humanity as a consciousness, human collective consciousness, we made a choice. We made a choice in 2012 that we are ready to ascend. We are ready to change the pattern. That's why a lot of calendars ended in 2012. They thought it was the end of the world, and then 2021 they thought it was or 2020 or wherever. They're like, this world ended so many times. The world as we know it has ended. It ended.
Yes.
It's not going ahead. That's why even through these predictions from Nostradamus and whatever, they only can see so far. And also the thing that they saw, these prophets, they didn't exactly manifest the way they were predicted, because the level of human collective consciousness has lifted, it's changed. So a lot of
Yes.
channelers are saying that it could have been much harder for us, but because enough people awakened in a meanwhile, and we are doing the work, the impact on the dense, on the 3D, is not as bad as it could have been, because when this
Yes.
energy is being used in a different realms, energetical, emotional, like not the physical realm, that it doesn't have to manifest there, because we know
Yeah.
that the planets, everything around us has a frequency. So when we have whatever of these placements in a chart, you can look at it and perceive it whichever way you want. It's just a bunch of symbols, right? The energy is there. How you channel the energy is up to you. So when we channel this energy in a non-visible realms, when we do the shadow work, emotional, like whatever, whatever work, it doesn't have to manifest in the physical. So the
No.
distraction on a physical level doesn't have to be as extreme, which a lot of people probably be like, what is she talking about? Look at the state of the world. It is extreme. It could have been worse. It
Yeah.
is not good, but it could have been worse, because when we look at it from the history point of view, which again has been altered, we are living in the most peaceful time ever on planet Earth. Even though to us it doesn't look that way, but when we look at back 500, 1000, 2000, few thousand years, we are living at the most peaceful time on this planet ever.
Yes.
Even though it is not peaceful, but it's more peaceful than it was thousands of years ago.
Yes.
So the level of collective consciousness has changed, because we made a different choice. And now we move in the matter through matter, and slowly, slowly, we will see the choice manifested over time.
Wow. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. It's the difference between this, experiencing time in this earthly realm and experiencing time in the spirit world. Like you're saying, the spirit world, a little bit of time is no time. So,
We're here for 5 minutes, 100 years, or even what is it, 84 years human span lifetime, like Uranus, right? That's nothing.
no.
It's nothing. It goes so
Um,
fast.
yes. But that gives us the opportunity to keep coming back and doing it again and moving ourselves forward lifetime after lifetime after lifetime.
From a high level of consciousness, because Pluto have moved. So everything that ever happens on this planet is implanted in our DNA, each and every single one of ours, because when poured into physical body, this is automatically part of the package, the DNA, the memory of the human collective consciousness. So every time we come back, we are experiencing and perceiving reality through the lens of the evolution that happened since.
Yes,
So it is interesting.
it is. It is. It's interesting and exciting and a little bit, I mean, I know that there are people that are experiencing scary and terrible things on the planet. I always wonder about that, why some people are experiencing these horrific things and other people are not. There's
Well,
wonderment about that.
there is the soul contract. So from the perspective of we don't know what was, we don't know what each of us has done in a past life, and what the soul, that unique expression, me,
Mhm.
you, need to balance from previous times. We don't remember everything, right?
No.
But also there is the other aspect of the soul contract, which is to be an example, a sacrifice, whatever, like there has to be that contrast of what we do not want to understand what it is that we don't want. So there are multiple things, and probably all of them happening simultaneously, that these souls that are going through these experiences, they might be working on something, balancing of something that happened in previous lifetimes that needs to be balanced, but at the same time they are being an example to help warn humanity, to show, okay, this is not what we want anymore. Okay, so
Yes.
we need to learn to heal this, or learn a different approach, so this can be prevented going forward. So there are multiple, nothing is ever wasted again, so there are multiple things going on simultaneously. So whatever is any of us experiencing is serving multiple purpose, even though through that physical experience, like me, you, or someone else going through whatever experience it is, we still need to have the human experience and go through the feels, to
Yes.
integrate it, to be able to heal it, because otherwise we just re-traumatize in the body, and it gets stored in a somatic tissue, and then passed on genetically to the next generation for healing and integration. So everything is happening at the same time, and also many times we will attract the situations that are unhealed and unresolved from past life, so the emotion of that can keep flooding back, so it can be healed.
Yeah.
If it wasn't healed
I see that.
previously, then we will need to have a trigger, whether external or internal, so the emotion can come up again, so they can be healed.
So it can be healed. I love that. Yeah.
So it is all about healing, and this is what I really feel that the Pisces Virgo nodes. That's what it's all going to be about. So there will be a lot of stuff coming up that will trigger that which is unhealed.
Yes. And it's the opportunity to heal, which sounds lovely to me.
Once and for all, right? Neptune. And we have the first ingresses of Saturn and Neptune into Aries next year. So we will get a taste of where we're going.
Yes. But
Yeah.
they'll go in individually first and then they retrograde back.
Mm.
And then I think it's like somewhere around sometime in February of 2026 that they'll make the exact conjunction at 0 degrees Aries,
Which is
which
amazing.
which is amazing. To me, that points to the shift.
And
We've
0 degrees. It's
at
unlimited
zero
potential.
degrees. It is really the potential of what will come. And it'll be something very, I think, very interesting. An interesting time to live through for sure.
Yeah, and I just
Um,
feel that the best way to go through all this experiencing that we are having right now is to allow the emotion to show you what it is that you're supposed to understand,
yes.
because of all this water that is in the chart. Even though obviously this is a full moon in Aries, which is all about fire, and Sun being in Libra about the air, but Venus, Mars, Saturn, Neptune, even Mercury now, everybody is in water signs.
Yeah, yeah. It's
So
interesting. I was just looking, I was like, oh wow, this I have a water sign in my natal chart. I have a water trine,
yeah.
and it's exactly these planets. It's exactly these. Well, let's see. I have Moon, Mars, and Neptune.
Mm.
So it's similar. So maybe I'm expecting a little bit of emotional stuff to come to the surface so that I can see it. I know
Mm.
that I'm definitely starting to realize and practice in my everyday life this when an emotion comes up to like look at it internally instead of projecting it outward. Like, why? I mean, doesn't mean I won't project it outward,
Mm.
but I definitely will internalize it first to discover what is it in me that is causing this and try to follow the thread back.
And
Um,
this is exactly what this Venus in Scorpio has been teaching us throughout Libra season. Because,
yes,
like everybody was expecting Libra season, air, relationship, it's all going to be this something out there. Yeah. But no, Venus was in Scorpio, it's 29 degrees at the time of this lunation. So it was like, go deeper. Like we need
Go
to dig
deeper.
deeper. And it literally is taking us back within, it's taking us back to ourselves, you know. So everything that we are experiencing with regards to external, you know, whether people, circumstances, you know, global stage, whatever, is just taking us back internal, back within, to show us, you know, Pluto in this Capricorn 29 degrees, about what is now in need of ending, healing, integrating, and culminating in order for this new cycle to begin. So
Yes.
nothing is so linear anymore, because even though we
No.
have these masculine energies of air and fire, we have to integrate the rulers, which are all in water signs. So
All
all
in
the
one.
elements are working together to support us on our evolutionary path.
Yay. And so it should be.
Yeah, it's just like we just have to work with it, right? Like they work in here with us and they here for us. But if you just think this is happening to us and it's separate from us, then we cannot channel the energy in a way that's actually supporting us in the direction where we head in. And that is the choice. That is that Gemini, that is that Mercury in Scorpio, Jupiter retrograde. This is the choice that we all have to consciously make. The Gemini is conscious, Mercury is conscious. We need to consciously make, how are we going to use these energies and interpret them? That is the choice. Do I feel
Yes.
disempowered through these experiences? Or, for example, people who lost everything because of these disasters, are they going to just now use that opportunity to go, my life is over, that's it, I'm done? Or, okay, well, I lost everything, I have nothing else to lose, so who do I want to become now? When everything that I had
Mm.
is gone, am I going to completely reinvent myself, because now I know what matters to me? So it's a disaster when that happens to people, but it's always an opportunity to make a different choice. So what
Yeah.
choice are we all going to make as a humanity when there might be potentially more and more of these situation appearing in everybody's life in a different way, energetically or, you know, physically? And this is the opportunity to decide this version of myself, this cancer, this identity, that now when whatever shift is happening through in my life, who do I choose to be going from now? Because there is this whatever kind of distraction, you know, the tower moment, the tower has fallen, and now that is fallen, what new tower do I want to build? What do I want it to look
Yes.
like?
Exactly. And I think you're talking about the opposition between Mars and Pluto here.
It's the, yeah, the illumination of what was, and the illumination of the potential that can be. But the work has to be done, and the work is also through this neutralization, the removing of the charge.
Yes. I mean, and there's a certain amount of acceptance, you know. This is what's happened. This is the reality that we're living through. It's interesting because Neptune in Pisces can be this like very foggy, you can't see through it. It's this everything is dissolving back into the oneness when we're
Mm.
talking about Neptune and Pisces. And from that place, these new things will begin. And we have the opportunity to direct those energies in the way that we want it. And I think that is our Mars in Cancer. Where are we going to direct it? And it's going to be, linked, like you said, to this Mercury, this perspective that we have. What is it that we are aligning our minds to? Um, what perceptions are we following that allow us to, because it is our perceptions that help to create our reality, right? What it is that we see. And so it's just an interesting, yeah, it's interesting that we have this ability right now to create our reality the way that we want to see it. And that can be scary because like you said, we a lot of us don't even know who we are. Like you said,
Mm.
there are people that are going to see, astrologers like us and all kinds of things for, people to discover. People want to discover who they are. And I think this is a lot of this energy that Chiron running through Aries, that's part of the healing that is required, is for us to discover who we are. And we'll know who we are through all the different experiences. It's the reflection of our experiences that tell us who we are. What are we really made of? We've been through a disaster and we've pulled our shit together, and um, we get to see who we are in these cases, and then know who we want to be.
Mm,
Perhaps we didn't behave in a way that we thought was, good in our disaster or whatever. We have the opportunity to make those changes. So it really doesn't matter what's happening on the outside. It's
mm.
all focused on what's happening on the inside, whatever your experience. We're having all kinds of experiences, individually, collectively, but we'll take these and internalize them and change the way that we are perceiving them and make our steps forward. But I think, Aries, Mars, this is the leading edge. This is the way we're moving. And it's pointing to the self. Everything is pointing to the self at this point.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like what you were describing, like when there are challenging situations, especially affecting groups of people like cities or countries or something, and we see how others are responding, and yeah, it goes two ways. Like we discover who we are, what matters to us, but like you said, sometimes we discover something we don't like about ourselves, like, oh, I reacted that way, why? And that is the opportunity again for us to hold a compassion for that aspect of ourselves by questioning, okay, why did I behave that way? What aspect of me, needed to protect me? Why? Where did it come from? Like this is where we dig into our narcissistic tendencies, because we all have them. They are also part of our heritage, Chiron, the wound. There is a narcissistic, whether we act on them or not, that's a choice, right? But it lives within the DNA of the humanity, narcissistic tendencies, because of all the unhealed trauma. Each has to fetch for themselves to survive. The Taurus in the lower vibration, the primal survival, the reptilian brain. So
Yes.
this is again where a situation like that appears, and then we feel ashamed or guilty because, oh, I reacted. And usually what happens is that we try to project it onto someone else, that, oh, but it was that person, he was there for brr. But actually when we sit with that aspect of ourselves, because this is something that I've been digesting a lot, recently, like when an aspect of myself gets brought up because of something that is unhealed within myself, I have a choice. Am I going to judge it and hate myself and reject myself for it, or am I going to embrace the child within me? Just like in each and every single one of us, if people had children, the 3-year-olds don't always behave the most beautiful way, but you love your child anyway. You understand this kid is a 2-3-year-old and he doesn't know any better, but there is an aspect of the 2-3-year-old in me, in you, in most people, that sometimes behave in a way that is not exactly amazing, but we have the opportunity to hold the child, to give it a cuddle and understand why you feel threatened, what is in you that needs reassurance or something. So there are multiple things that are happening through all these different situations we are experiencing individually and collectively, where a lot of aspects of ourselves are coming online that normally are hidden, some of them
Yes.
positive, some of them not so positive, but we have the opportunity to embrace the totality of who we are, because when we are rejection with the aspects of ourselves we don't like, they cannot be healed, because we keep then saying, oh, this is not
Keep
good,
it
let's
buried.
hide it, let's hide it under the carpet, I don't want to
Yep.
deal with this insecure needy aspect of myself or something, and then it will come up another time, because everything that is has a charge needs to be brought to point of neutrality. So if I
Exactly.
don't heal it, the next generation will have to heal it, and this is how things just get passed on over and over and over
Yes.
again. And this is where we are. This is the opposition, this is the trine to Saturn Neptune, this is the Venus trine to Neptune, this is all of it. This is the Chiron
Yes.
moon. Wounds of the past are coming up to the surface for us to neutralize and heal in order to step into this new direction of human
Yes.
evolution.
I love that. And yes, the way to heal it is to nurture that inner child, that inner 2 or 3 year old that, once it comes up, you can shove it back down, but that doesn't do anything but bring it back up later. This is my friend used to call it the spiral staircase.
Yeah, yeah. And
You just come back around again in another inopportune moment,
yeah.
instead of having the ability to look at it right now, having the courage to look at it right now, having the courage. And I think that's part of this Mars and Cancer, having the
Mm,
courage to look at ourselves and to nurture ourselves in a way that helps us to grow beyond where we are.
yeah. Literally to nurture the old versions of ourselves that helped us to survive, and they still exist within ourselves, but might not be what we like or prefer anymore, but
Yep.
understand the meaning and purpose of them, that they help us to survive, they help us to get where we
Oh,
are, whatever is that, characteristic or tendency or behavior. We wouldn't be where we are if at some point in our life that didn't need to become part of ourselves because it was necessary for us to survive. So that's
yep.
why, again, it goes back to this Neptune compassion,
Yep.
understanding the meaning. Because if we don't understand and if we cannot hold the compassion and forgiveness, and most of that has to be directed to ourselves first, we cannot close the cycle. This is an energy that's hanging in there, unresolved, that needs resolution, and it cannot happen any other way.
Yeah,
It has to be
this
this
is the water
emotional,
trine.
yeah,
This is
the emotional
to speak in
processing.
the grand water trine. That's it. We're,
Exactly.
we're bringing it up to the surface. We're having compassion for it so that we can make changes in ourselves. There it is.
Yeah, this is the message. You have a full moon in Aries, but it's all about water. It's all the undercurrents.
Yeah, it is all the undercurrents for
That's it.
sure.
Wow. Yeah, and that now we can see why we have a grand cardinal square. It's saying we have to go into new direction. It's going to be through all this pressure and discomfort to push us there.
Yes,
Yep.
awesomeness. There we go. I knew it would unfold for us.
There you go.
We just had
Like,
to talk about it.
me jet lagged, you feeling unprepared. It's like, okay, let's just show up and see what happens, Aries.
What happens? Exactly.
There we go. Perfect. Cool.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. Yeah.
Awesome. I think that we analyzed it to death.
Yes, I think so. Here, I'm going to turn it off.
Oh, so nice. And even sun
Yeah.
is shining. So I'm like, okay,
Oh,
spirit is happy with us.
not here yet. It's still cloudy, but I hope the sun comes out.
Well, I
It would
mean, the place of heart is full of sun, whether the sun is shining or not. It's
good.
full of
Thank you.
light from
Yeah.
inside out.
Yeah. Yesterday we brought all the vegetables in. We're still building the compartments to house them for the winter, but we brought in like everything that was in the trailer with the
Mm.
is now in the kitchen. All the squash is stacked up in the kitchen. It's like, so today's journey will be to get all of that put away.
So that's the nurturing from inside out, and then the
Yeah.
nature will help us to nurture from the other way.
The outside in. Yep.
There we go.
That's it.
Awesome. So tell everyone, Adrian, where they can connect with you.
Yeah, you can find me on my website, jaskiranastrology.com. I also have a Substack account where I post my moon reports, and that's Jas Kiran Astrology at Substack. And you can also reach there from my website. I also post the link to my moon reports on my Facebook.
And
So,
Adrian also has a YouTube channel, Just Gain Astrology. And now that the harvesting season is finished, I know you have
yeah,
some new plans for your YouTube
I will
channel.
be working on putting out some videos. That's my plan.
Awesome. So then you can tap more into Adrian's way of teaching astrology.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Adrian. It was lovely to reconnect. And thank you,
Yes.
everyone, for watching. I hope that this offered some value. And
Yeah.
until next time,
All right. Thanks.
bye, everyone.